Alright guys, today we got Zentangle number 3 on the block, and I got 3 new patterns to show us, and I'm excited to get into these. So today, as always, to get started, you're going to need your journal, you're going to need a pencil. It may also be helpful for this one to have a straight edge, meaning a ruler of some kind, but you could also use a piece of paper, anything that really has a straight edge. You're going to need a black pen, and this can be any kind of black pen, and you may even need a marker. Alright, so this could be a Sharpie or something, but you could totally do this in just a pen and a pencil. So I'm going to set these aside real quick. Now to get started, we need to go into our journal here, alright, and we need to go to a new page, or if we are working on a page that already exists, we're going to go to that page, and here I have a previous doodle I did. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw my 4 dots here. So here's my visual aid. So I've got my 4 dots marked. I can fit 2 on this page, pretty excited. And then I'm going to go about and draw an outside line here. I'm going to do a little loop, alright, and kind of pretend like you're laying a string. Notice I did this in pencil. You should be doing the same. And then once you have your outside edge, you're going to go ahead and separate this a bit, so that way we have some room to put some patterns, maybe not only the patterns we learned today, but maybe to incorporate a few patterns that we learned last week. Alright, and again, you should go over this only in pencil at this point. Alright, I don't want any of you to kind of get ahead of yourself, okay? Alright, we'll set that aside, alright? I'm going to also set this aside as we move forward. Alright, so the first pattern we're going to learn today is called poke root. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here for us. Alright, excellent. So poke root is a really cool pattern because it looks like it's a nature pattern. It's a nature type pattern, and I think it's really cool. I think it looks like berries on a bush, or these could even be little like flower buds that have not quite started to bloom yet. All right, and this can fit in any space. And what's great about them is you can keep adding them and adding them and adding them together. All right. So what we're going to start by doing is drawing in kind of this rectangle. Alright, this is going to be our first stem. From here, we're going to add a circle to the top. All good so far, I hope. Alright, now we're going to continue to add the same thing over and over again, filling this area. Okay, so I can maybe come off the same stem and add more circles. And for this, I'm really going to make sure that when I layer, I kind of stop. I could even have pieces go behind. This would be another break off of that stem there. To come up, make that rectangle, that little noodle or extrusion. Make a circle. Circles can be big, can be small. They could come from other places. You know, I can have one that starts here now. Right? This one's going to go behind as well. Alright? So it's almost like this little, like I said, like a little bush. Can have them coming off this side. Alright, so this pattern just continues. I want to make sure that if I am drawing a circle, I always have this little noodle that I'm connecting it to. Alright, and I always want to make sure I'm going behind whatever's in front. That way we're creating layers. Alright, and you can do this to fill any interesting space you'd like. It could be on the outside. I really love this one because it's so like nature-like. I hope you started in pencil like I did. That way, if you make mistakes, you can easily erase your mistakes. You know, if you got like a circle that's a little more oval, you can always go over and fix it, or you can make them a little bigger. You feel like, hey, that isn't quite what I wanted. All right. Now from here, I'm going to go over them in pen. I'm going to make sure that, you know, I'm keeping the lines I want to keep, and I can erase the rest. So I got a little pin here. It looks kind of fancy, but it's not. A pen does a job very quickly on cleaning things up, making things look nice and finished and complete. Just a few more of these guys and I will be done. Alright, I can erase the parts I kind of went over now. That's always a good idea. Right, and now I need to start the process of shading. And these shade pretty easily. First and foremost, the little stalks are going to shade just a little bit. And you're just going to do this with your pencil. Just kind of lightly shade them in. Now, the ones that are really behind things, those kind of darken up a little more maybe, right? And then on the kind of little berries themselves, any area that is behind is going to get a little value. So, for example, this berry overlaps this one here. So I'm going to shade that in. This stem overlaps this one here. I'm going to make sure I shade that in. Alright? Think about how the light may hit if this was like an actual object sitting in front of your desk. Alright? After you get that part done, what you're going to do is you're going to think about where the light's coming, and we're just going to add like a little, almost like divot right there. And you know, if that area is already shaded, then just skip over. Hopefully that's not too bad. Alright. Now, alternatively, if you would like, you could leave the stems white and instead shade in the dark area behind. But I'm going to let that be up to you. That's you know, there's another way to do this. You can leave the stems or the stalks white and shade in the areas like this. Alright, so that is poke root. On to the next one. Oh, of course, you can stop the video here, go back to your card, and draw a poke root in one of these sections. And then come back and I'll show you Festune, the next pattern. Now, Festune is another nature type pattern, and I kind of think of them as like little mints, if you will. To start this, we have a dash, just a line. You can make it a little curved if you'd like, one way or the other. Then we have kind of a circle, or an oval actually. that we're going to put around this. I think this kind of looks like a blood cell. All right. From here, and actually, I'm going to go ahead and marker this. Right, and if you had a couple of these, similar to what I was just discussing, you know, sometimes there's going to be an overlap. You know, things have to be behind other things. You know, and maybe some of these are bigger and some of these are smaller. And that's okay. All right. Now, what we do after we kind of get our shape drawn in is we're going to add these little kind of arrows in. And these are kind of neat. So you got to imagine like the center is lower. So they're going to come up and over. So it's going to come, like if this was the center, it's going to come up and around an object. Almost like a pillow or like those little eyelets in couches. All right. So it's all going to extend from the center point. All right. So this is going to come over and out. Right. Pretty neat, eh? And then you can add a little fancy blop to the bottom if you want to. A little foot, if you will. Alright, so I'm going to go and do that for the rest of mine. And you just want to give them a good space. All right. Now, once you have these festoons drawn in, and you know, I could, whatever space I have, I could use these to kind of fill the space. But whenever you're finished kind of drawing your little festoons in, you're going to go and move to your pencil, and we're going to shade these. And the way these shade, other than areas where it's overlapped, which we'll start there. We'll start at areas of overlap. I'm going to come in, you know, these are going to cast a little shadow. Just like if something was blocking the light, it creates a shadow, right? Here I'm just kind of moving the graphite around my finger. I'm also going to shade the bottoms here, right? Kind of like the light's coming from the top side. Right, and this is going to further create depth and make this look a little more three-dimensional. Pretty cool, right? Alright, and if you get a bunch of these in an area, kind of like I have here, you know, you may want to add some value in between them, similar to what I talked about with the poke root. Alright, so, you know, set this card, or pause the video if you'd like, set this one aside and go ahead and move into your journal and use it to fill in some spaces. Alright, and the third and final pattern is one of my absolute favorites, and it is called the Hollibaugh. And the Hollibaugh is not super complex. It can be a little tedious, but man oh man do I love it. So the Hollibaugh is a good way to fit any space here, but I'll explain it as a premise. I'm just going to create this in space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a series of straight lines that don't touch themselves, or don't touch anything else. Now, you may want to use a straight edge for this. I'm just going to freehand it because I kind of like the way it looks that way. Right? Now that you have a set of lines that these are going to be your top lines, we're going to kind of turn our page and kind of move around. And we're going to draw lines that kind of go back and behind these. All right, now it can touch any number. You know, it can go any direction it wants. But you're just going to make sure they just cross under 1. All right, so we can keep this going. You know, I can do a set that goes behind even those. Anywhere I'd like. This would be an area that would benefit a ruler really well because I'm getting a little off track. But you know what? That's okay. Man, I love this pattern. Alright. I'm going to stop here because I'll get carried away because I love doing this one. So the way the Hollibaugh works is any areas that do not have anything, you're going to go in and kind of color in nice and dark. Okay? This creates the illusion that behind this is like a void. Like maybe these little webs keep going forever and ever and ever, and you're just not able to see past a certain point. All right. And I'm just going to do this quickly. Please make sure yours are filled in all the way. That would be a travesty if they weren't. And I have lots and lots of examples of this one. All right. Now, once I have this area kind of colored in nice and dark, what we're going to do is we're going to move over to shading. And to shade, it kind of works like this. The ones on top, you leave those alone. You're not going to touch them at all. But the one underneath it, it's going to cast a shadow. So here's our first one. That's the one that's on the top. It's the highest up. Now, anyone that is below this, I'm just going to kind of go along the sides here. It's going to cast a shadow. So do you see me shade that? This takes just a minute. All right. Now onto the bottom ones. Right? And that was just this one line. And I'm going to keep going through. So this line, I have two sides here. This one's here and there. All right. Now I move to the next row, right? So this one here, this is behind it. And I just kind of keep going. You know, and you get to the point where like some of these lines get pretty dark because they're behind, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 lines. So their shadow keeps moving out and out further and further and further. And that's exactly what we want to see. So that way as the ones get lower and lower away from us, first layer, second layer, third layer, fourth layer, fifth layer, they're going to get a little darker and darker and darker. All right. So that's the Hollibaugh. It's a really great pattern to use and to know. I tend to use this one a lot, actually, myself. Right here is even one. Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these patterns today. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with and design on your own. using these patterns. And, we'll catch you next time. Be good.